Denji, man. If there's one thing he hasn't learned, it's women. But you can't blame him. Just had to come out with it. Look, I'm Chainsaw Man, but you really expect her to believe you're Chainsaw Man. I really enjoyed this chapter, and we got to see, you know, a lot more character interactions, and that's what I'm loving about part 2 of Chainsaw Man. It's not too action heavy, it's not too crazy right now, but we're really given the time to learn these characters. And honestly, I feel like, I don't know what it is, even though we haven't gotten much of this high school setting in part 2, I feel like this high school setting is a lot more entertaining and realistic when you're just kind of going through each chapter. And just, yeah, getting to learn about these characters more and more is nice. But we get a little bit of the War Devil breaking down. This is the first time he's kind of shown, like, just like being upset, being mad, and he's really not being, you know, antagonistic towards our main character, right? And so what happens is War Devil basically tells a story about how Chainsaw Man, they fought a long time ago. And he basically lost, right? And we know with Chainsaw Man, and he didn't completely die. So we know with Chainsaw Man, his ability, he's able to erase whatever that thing is out of the entire existence, right? So there hasn't been a war since the World War. So there hasn't been a 2. There hasn't been, you know, maybe any other war since, right? And that's very interesting, and that's why he hates Chainsaw Man, because his power has dwindled because no one is fearful of war anymore, thereby just eliminating his power in general. So it's definitely interesting, and we'll probably get more on that later. But we kind of fast forward to the school setting here, and we get, funny enough, we get Denji acting as a chair, and apparently he's getting paid to be this chair for this girl. And we see Yoshida basically like out the corner kind of watching what he's doing, and basically asks Denji to, you know, come talk. Denji's upset, like, why do you keep stalking me? And Yoshida reiterates that I'm basically, no matter what, I'm gonna make sure your identity doesn't get found out. I'm here to protect you, Denji. And, you know, he basically they go back and forth, and Denji's like, look, I gotta get back because this girl, I'm her chair, or else I'm not gonna get paid. And he's like, well, look, here, I'll give you money if you want to, okay, actually, let me back up, sorry. So before that happens, Yoshida gives Denji his ID back. Now, Yoshida realizes Denji purposely placed that so people can find out that he's Chainsaw Man. So he's already aware of the little methods that Denji is trying to do to make sure people know, which I find very funny that, you know, he wants to do it because he's like, yo, I want people to know me, I want the fame, I want the women, and that's always been Denji, right? But he's not going to let that happen. And Denji's annoyed by this. He's like, look, I'm going back to being a chair. And he's like, what if I pay you? And he's like, what? I'm not going to let some dude sit on me. And he hands Denji a lot more money than the girl was giving her, basically. So things kind of advance. And Yoshida's like, do you want that because you want a girlfriend? And the reason he's saying this is because in their last conversation, he says a part of the reason he wanted to be found out was so he could, you know, meet women, in a sense, if we had to condense it out, right? And he's like, okay, well, you know what, let me help you out. And then Denji's like, okay, well then introduce me to a girlfriend. And he's like, all right, well, what's your type? And he said, anyone who is desperate for a girl or a boyfriend. And we know, right, we know this is gonna happen, right? But we knew this was gonna happen because Asami Mitaka, right, as the War Devil, right, was like, hey, do you have a girl, or do you have a girlfriend, blah 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 blah. So put 2 and 2 together, we knew they would eventually meet up, and this is how they do it. So it finally transitions to them all kind of on the roof. They're talking, they're chit-chatting. Mitaka's like, hey, why are you eating here? We thought we'd go outside because it was crowded everywhere else. Hey, where's Yuko? She's absent with an injury. And then Yoshida striking up more conversation. Oh, is that because Chainsaw Man? Isn't that the, you know, basically saying, oh, you guys got saved by Chainsaw Man, right? And he's like, she's like, pretty much. And Denji's like, he saved you? And I don't think Denji remembered ever seeing Mitaka in the whole thing, right? So Yoshida's like, all right, hey, let me introduce you to Denji. He's a huge Chainsaw Man fan, right? And she's like, wait, seriously? And he's like, you know, do you like Chainsaw Man? Like, I'm a big fan of Chainsaw Man. And she's like, well, these days I'm kind of neutral. And Denji's like, you hate him? How come? And she kind of goes over her points, right? Which I find hilarious. His clothes and body are always covered up in blood. It's just filthy. Denji comes up with a rebuttal. Well, he bathes, you know. Then she says, Chainsaw Man sprouts a chainsaw out of his head. You know, it makes him look a little crazy. And then Denji's like, he uses his brain a ton, right? And this is in response to her saying, it makes him look like an idiot with no brain. And then she says, then there's how he only saves women. It's blatantly horny, and that's gross. He has a pure heart, and I found this one funny because that sounds like something Denji would do. And then she says, you don't know that. It's not like you're him. And he's like, damn it. And he's kind of cracking under all this with all the like rebuttals he's going back and forth with Mitaka about, right? And eventually he's just like, look, Chainsaw Man is not what you think. And she's like, well, how would you know? And then he just kind of, he's like, look, I'm going to say it. And Yoshida's like, Denji? And he just says it. I know because I'm Chainsaw Man. And then we get this look from Mitaka of just disgust. And I find it hilarious. Because she's literally like staring at him. And she's just like, loser. And literally walks off. I think it's hilarious. And Yoshida's like, no one will believe you like that. But I really am Chainsaw Man. And it's hilarious way to end the chapter, man. I find it funny. I don't I just love learning more about the characters and seeing them all interact, because I think that's what he's been doing great about Chainsaw Man Part 2. This was a really enjoyable chapter. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, man.